Okay, so the next question that we have on the menu today is asking us, how could we possibly simplify the square root of 20? Okay, let's write that out. Simplify the square root of 20. Root 20. Okay, now let me tell you about this rule about simplifying rational numbers, or for simplifying not rational numbers, simplifying things that are under the square root. Okay, so general rule or general procedure for simplifying roots. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to factor your radicand. You want to simplify the under the root number until as many terms as possible. So simplify the under root number into as many factors as possible. If you see a repeat factor, bring it outside. If you see a repeat factor, bring it outside the root. Okay, cool. So let's apply this general procedure to our current situation. So our current situation is we got 20 underneath the square root. Okay, so here we got our 20, and then we want to factor 20 into as many terms as possible. Okay, let's think about what can we multiply together to get to 20. We can do 1 times 20, but that's not really helpful because, well, you can multiply 1 as many times under the root, but it's not really going to change anything. So don't worry about multiplying by 1. Now let's think about how else can we get to 20. We can do 2 times 10. Yep, that sounds about reasonable. Okay, so we know that 20 is equal to 2 times 10. Okay, but we want to still keep trying to factor these things down into their as simplest terms possible. So what do we know about 10? How can we possibly get to 10? Well, I know 10, 5 times 2, 5 plus 5. Bro, that's got to be 10. So we can rewrite this as 2 times 5, right? 2 times 5, that's got to be 10. And, multiply that whole thing by 2 again, and you'll get 20. So we can put this whole thing under the root, 2 times 2 times 5. Let's put that under the root. Okay. Put under root. And this is completely equivalent to what we had before. So before we had 20 under the root. Now we have 2 times 2 times 5 under the root. Okay. So the next thing that we had that was a part of our general procedure for simplifying roots is if we see a repeat factor, we can bring it right outside. Okay, so if we look at our current situation, we have, oh my goodness, would you look at that? 2 appears twice. So we have 2 2's. We got 2 2's dressed up under this root, dressed up in a tutu. Ha, very funny. Okay, so we can bring this outside. And bring outside of root. Okay, now what we really mean by bringing this outside of the root is that those two together, because we have a square root, anything that's multiplied by itself, when it leaves the root, just becomes itself. Okay, so in the root, or when it's brought out of the root, it will become 2 times root 5. Well, that kind of looks like a 6. Let me draw it as a 5. Okay, so when you find twins under the root, you're leaving, one of the twins is going to disappear when you bring it outside. Okay, so that's That's a nice way to think about it. So bring outside of the root. One twin is lost. Is lost. And this will be our final answer. 2 times root 5. And when we look at the 5, the number under the root, could we simplify that? Can we factor out 5? Not really, because 5 is a prime number. Can't factor prime numbers into anything smaller, so we can just leave it at this, okay? And I mean, another way that you can think about it is try to see if you have perfect squares. But in my opinion, this sometimes is hard to recognize perfect squares. Especially as the numbers get really, really big. So this procedure in general, I would recommend, because you keep factoring everything until you get to like purely prime numbers, and then anytime you see a twin, bring it outside, but it becomes a single child once it leaves the root. Twins under the root become single children outside of the root. Okay, cool. So that would be the solution that we give, and things look good. Awesome. So the above solution is good.